Once again, both political parties are fighting to portray themselves as the victims, as the aggrieved. President Biden called Trump and his supporters a grave threat to democracy, and Republicans lost their minds. Then former President Trump targeted Biden and the Democrats over the weekend, and Democrats had their turn to go insane. This is all just another example of why those of us in what I like to call the moderate marginalized majority are sick of both sides engaging in the name-calling that ensures bipartisanship is dead. The latest feud started last week during President Biden's primetime speech when he said this about Trump and his supporters.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. There's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people.
Now, to be fair, he distinguished between Trump election-denying Republicans and what he called mainstream Republicans, which the president referred to as the majority of Republicans. But even if certain extremists do pose a danger, what's the point of the MAGA Republican name-calling by the President of the United States? What's the point? Well, obviously, to fire up his base heading into the midterms. And, of course, Fox News and other conservative entities took the bait and acted totally offended.
Joe Biden really has crossed over into a very dangerous place. Tonight, he declared in a speech in Philadelphia that anyone who disagrees with him is a threat to the country.
He came out with the ridiculous lighting that looked more like Lenin than he did Biden, and came out and just vilified anyone who voted for Donald Trump.
The best description that came to mind was split personality disorder, because on one hand, you had Biden saying half the country's a threat to democracy, we're a clear and present danger to society, but let's unite and let's not demonize our fellow man.
He didn't say half the country, putting aside also that President Trump had previously said this in 2020 about Democrats.
Left wing, we're going left wing all the way. Fascists, they are fascists.
But President Biden, in his speech yesterday, refused to apologize for the remarks.
I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican is a MAGA Republican. Not every Republican embraces that extreme ideology. I know because I've been able to work with mainstream Republicans my whole career. But the extreme MAGA Republicans in Congress have chosen to go backwards, full of anger, violence, hate, and division. But together, we can and we must choose a different path.
Just as Republicans were gaining some sympathy from independents for the tone of President Biden's remarks, over the weekend, former President Trump took the divisiveness a step further.
This election is a referendum on the corruption and extremism of Joe Biden and the radical Democrat Party. If you want to stop this destruction of America, you must vote Republican. You're all enemies of the state. He's an enemy of the state. You want to know the truth? The enemy of the state is him and the group that control him.
Right. And then, of course, it was those on the left who had their turn to cry foul.
The thing that jumped out at me that I found so concerning is that he directly called the sitting president of the United States, quote, an enemy of the state.
What was meant to be a rally for a pair of struggling GOP candidates ended up being a megaphone for Trump's attacks on President Biden.
As you can imagine, it quickly devolved into nothing more than a tirade against the man who beat him.
Now, I want to make clear what I'm trying to highlight here. My goal is not to compare Biden's words to Trump, because they actually aren't really comparable. What I'm trying to do is go after the escalating rhetoric, the need from both sides to demonize the other with name-calling, the desire from each side's base to hear their leader stick it to the other side, leaving what I call the marginalized moderate majority feeling helpless as the divide grows and ensures bipartisanship will be seen as the enemy. Joining me now is Julia Manchester, the national political reporter for The Hill. Thanks so much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. All right, so did Republicans lose any momentum they might have had by Trump making those comments over the weekend?
You know, it's interesting. I think maybe Trump galvanized some of his hardcore base, which will absolutely come out for him and, his endorsed candidates in the midterms. But, I think it definitely does lead to some distractions for Republicans. Republicans want to be talking about inflation, the crisis at the southern border, the economy. They don't want to necessarily be doing cleanup duty for, remarks President Trump said and having to talk about them and essentially relitigate them after he said them. So
it seemed to me that Biden had to do a little bit of cleanup, even though, he had made it clear in his speech, et cetera. But you could tell that when he said it the second time, he wanted to make it even clearer as his distinction between Republicans on the whole and the MAGA Republicans, because I think they saw that it had resonated a little bit with some of the independents who are critical. And then you have Donald Trump eliminating that talking point by just ratcheting it up a level higher. I mean, I guess it just seems bananas that we're at the point where both are going to have to sort of keep ratcheting up the level to appease the bases, even if the comments aren't comparable.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this base so much, but we really have to talk about these, moderate voters that we also talk about, the independent swing voters. And it seems like there is some messaging towards them. You have the Republican apparatus here in Washington, very much, like I said, wanting to talk about those kitchen table issues like inflation, like the economy. The Democratic apparatus wanting to very much appeal to those voters by talking about other issues like abortion. But when you have these two leaders of their respective parties, Trump being the de facto leader of the Republican Party, it just adds to distraction. And I think it definitely adds to that more back and forth we see that Washington is so unfortunately known for, and it turns off a lot of voters ultimately.
But it's good politics for the primaries.
It is. It is. And we saw that happening in the primaries quite a bit.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.